Tom Gray here. Got me an old Black & Decker number 8 sheet metal nibbler. This is from back in the day when Black & Decker made real tools. This is an industrial strength sheet metal nibbler. It can go through 8-gauge steel. It can turn about a 9-inch radius, a little bit tighter if you want it to. I tested it on some 14 gauge and it went through it like it wasn't even there. In this 2-part series, I'm going to take her down, clean it up, lube it, put it back together again, and give it a test. I actually got it in pretty good shape, so it didn't need a lot of work, but just a little bit of TLC, and now I got myself one Mac Daddy of a sheet metal nibbler. I'll show you how I did it. By way of comparison, here is my Black & Decker open throat shear. So this is a shear. It's got an anvil and a blade that chops the sheet metal. This is a nibbler. This has one tooth that nibbles away the sheet metal, so it cuts differently. This big boy here can do 12 gauge. That's roughly 1/8 inch plate. But this guy here, he can do 8 gauge. That's some heavy duty. That's a heavy duty dude there. Let's see the difference in how they cut. First, the open throat shear. Again, this has got an anvil, and it basically guillotines the sheet metal. This is a piece of 14 gauge. So, bring it close here. If you can see that, but it deformed the edge a little bit. It twisted it, and you can see it's a little twisted here. Now, the nibbler. It did not twist the sheet, but it nibbled away these big old chips. So totally different cutting method. You can see one kind of deforms the edge, the other one doesn't. So while the shear doesn't consume any of the sheet metal, the nibbler does. Those chips are 1/4 inch long, so you lose 1/4 inch of your stock. So to get started, here she is. The business end, the punch and chisel are pretty dirty, all gooped up with oil. Lots of oil coming out of the motor vent. Can still read the label, sorta. Number 8 HD nibbler. On this side, it says use lubricant, cutting oil, kerosene, mild steel capacity 8 gauge, non-ferrous. Can't really read it. Hopefully all the guts and innards are okay, but since it works, I'm pretty confident they are. Switch works. Cord is frayed, the strain relief is petrified and broken. The anvil and the chisel are pretty gooped up, probably with kerosene residue and shop dirt. But generally in pretty good shape. Let's take her down. Let's start the teardown. Let's start by removing this half of the handle. Little lock washers in here. Actually looks pretty clean, considering. All right, the next thing to come out is the switch. I'll let go of the ground first. Opening the paper insulator. Okay, let's map out these cables. Little lock washers on the switch screws as well. Boys at Black & Decker knew that this thing would be facing some vibration. Didn't want anything coming loose. Okay, now I should be able to extract the cord. Let's take the strain relief loose. Big old strain relief just petrified and cracked. Next are the brushes. Wow, it's stiff. Little brush cap. Huh, not bad. Next, this exterior handle. Okay, now I'm going to separate the motor from the reciprocating assembly. Big long one there. Grease. It's good. It's better than oil. Just using a carry-out spoon, scoop some of this old grease out of here. Yeah, we got a couple of screws here. Gonna attempt to remove the gearbox. And there's the motor rotor and fan, which is rusty and dirty. Probably not easy to see, but I'm gonna remove the switch because two of the field wires go down the handle cavity. Okay, to disconnect the brush springs, the weapons of choice are a piece of aluminum welding rod and a chopstick. And if needs must, a long screwdriver. I know you can't see in there, but I'm just rolling the springs off of the brush holders. So now we can take the field screws loose. To make a hook out of my aluminum welding rod. Pull them straight through before I yank them around the corner. Like this. Wires are hanging up on the remaining brush, so I'm gonna remove that brush holder, which is just this little set screw with the chopstick. There we are. Yep, that was it. it. Okay, there's a bearing way down in there. If you can see it, held in by a rubber plug, little rubber puck. So I'm gonna just reach down in there with a needle nose, pull out the little rubber plug. You're gonna work on old power tools like this. This is an invaluable tool to have. It's an internal bearing puller. So to get this deep bearing, this goes on the inner race. You won't be able to see it because it's so confined in here. I'll show you when it comes out. And 2 wrenches. And it grabs the inner race. By expanding, you thread on your slide hammer, which is overkill for this thing, but does make it easy. The press on these is not real hard, and it comes out like that. You see how it expanded to grab the inner race of the bearing. The next hardest thing are these little drive screws that hold these old-fashioned labels on. There's several ways to do this, but I find the easiest is back drill them out. So I'm just very carefully center punching and take a teeny weeny drill, good high quality one, and just make a little starter hole. And then little by little work your way up. I'm using a left-handed drill here because sometimes when you're drilling these things, the burr will grab and it'll back itself out, which is a break. If not, just go slow. This one also happens to be bent, so it makes it even more fun. Okay, I think we're close enough there. And a little chisel. Knock its head off. And there you go, it's free. And a nail set. And there's a little devil right there. Okay, labels are off. Bearings out. This is now just a machine casting. It's ready to be cleaned up. Okay, next is disassembly of the gearbox. I'm gonna drive the motor shaft back out with the rawhide end of the #1 garland, just tapping on the end of the pinion shaft. There you go. Okay, I have this propped up on the vise, making damn good and sure that I'm not sitting on the gear. And just taking a punch and just, okay, out it popped. There it is. While we're there, we can also grab this grease slinger, which just sits on this bearing, just this piece of aluminum. To remove the bearings from the gearbox, I'm just using my little 1-ton greener press. Don't take much, just a little push. Okay, this is now a machine, just a bare machine casting. Okay, now we're entering the guesswork part of the project. Since I don't have a diagram, I'm really guessing at what's going on here. So I'm going to start by trying to remove. Two socket head screws.
Okay, it doesn't seem to want to move, even with the screws out. It's okay. We'll keep going. Let's cover off, see what's going on up here. There we go. Cover and a gasket. And try removing these. It's like a 5/16 hex key, which is a big baby. Ugh. I don't want to pry on the aluminum directly, so using a plastic scraper to help there. Here's obviously our reciprocating assembly. Working off the piece of petrified plastic. Must be how oil gets down into the... Okay, I'm gonna stick a big old gland wrench in these two holes. It sticks in there with like grease. And then turn this baby out. Gear comes off. Scoop out some more grease. Aha. There's a snap ring. You can just see the ears of a big old snap ring. That's good.
That is one Mac Daddy of a snap ring. It's like something you'd find in a truck transmission.
Looks like a 5/16 fine thread in the end of this.
Using a couple of pry bars, a couple of pieces of welding practice aluminum, and a washer. And up comes the crankshaft, and you can see the eccentric on it. Okay, before it gets damaged, I'm going to remove the punch. At least I think I'm going to remove the punch. It's held in by this set screw. Yep. Okay, I got kind of double protection going on here. I got this brass soft jaws and I got a piece of welding practice aluminum wrapped around the connecting rod. There it went. There's the wrist pin. And now we can pull out the connecting rod. Big old roller bearing in it, nice and greasy. Okay, this little plug looks like a vent. This a spring. It's like a valve seat. Then we got a needle bearing right here. Let's see if we can tap that out. There it is. Okay, this little pin right here. I grab it with a rag. You can see what happened here is obviously it's lubricated with grease, but it was run and run and run, probably, you know, high duty cycle. When you heats the grease up, and when you heat grease up, you get oil and sludge. So some of the grease turned into oil and dripped right out. Since there's no seals in here, there's no seals anywhere except for this one gasket, and that is what got all over the place and all over the outside, was the oil, just boiled grease basically, and all this sludge is what's left over from the cooked grease. You can see it's kind of a pukey, green, yellow, pukey color. Okay, taking a piece of 23 thousandths welding wire, if I poke it up here, probably can't see it, but it comes through into this chamber. And if I poke through here, yeah, you can just see it, a little piece of copper coated welding wire in there. So that tells me that it's an oil feed for the cutting chisel. So this must be an oil reservoir for liquid oil because it had a gasket on it. You can see the welding wire coming through there. So that little vented socket head screw must be either the fill port or the vent. And that probably just drip lubricates the cutting chisel. There's I don't know if it's visible or if it will be visible on camera if this thing will focus. But there's a one-time quickie nut or sheet metal quick nut that's holding that thing in. So I don't dare take it out because I don't want to destroy that little quickie nut, because I probably cannot replace it. Okay, now you should be able to see it. There's a little sheet metal one-time nut on there that I'm not going to touch because I'm pretty sure I can't replace it. And I'm going to hold off on trying to yank this bearing out. It's in good shape. The cage rolls really easy. There's no slop in it. So I'm probably just going to leave that alone. On the shoe, I knocked this off just with a hammer. And you can see that it's meant to slide up and down. So I think this is where you adjust the gauge of the sheet metal. Those two Allen screws that I took out, which would explain why you have a piece of flexible hose on here to let oil down into the anvil and the chisel. Okay, there's two socket head screws here. Take those out and see what those are doing. I think they're holding the anvil on. Yep, sure is shooting. That's what they're doing, they're holding the anvil on. And off comes the anvil. Now we've got a bare forging. It's just dirty as all heck. All right. Okay, to unseat the shaft, the eccentric shaft from the big honking bearing, I'm just a few little love taps with the Garland #1. There's our big bearing. There's our eccentric shaft. And here's all the parts. Now is the inglorious part of the venture. I'm going to clean all this stuff up, so it's going to be a combination of Dawn dish soap, hot water, lighter fluid, and brake clean. Whatever it takes. Most of this stuff is just sludgy grease. But this is some pretty hard crusted on dirt. Might need to be chipped off. But let me get everything soaking and get it all cleaned up. And the good news is nothing looks like it needs repair. The gasket that goes on here will need to be replaced. But other than that, everything's in, and the little nylon hose that feeds the chisel or the punch needs to be replaced. But other than that, it's in pretty good shape. All the bearings are really good. No need to
change any bearings. The connecting rod is really good shape. So good news is no major parts replacements. Bad news is it's a greasy mess. So I'll come back when this is all cleaned up.